How's the weather where you are?
It's
Always
really
nice.
beautiful. It's like going in and out of like light rain sometimes. Like we just came out of what was supposed to be the rainy season, but we didn't get the huge monsoons that I think they typically get.
Yeah.
So it's been nice. I'm like wearing long sleeve stuff, got my scarves and things out that I haven't been able to use because it's so hot usually. So it's been fun.
Oh, that's good. It is 9 degrees here today.
It's definitely like 80 degrees here every day. It was a very cold 76 last night or something.
It has been something else recently. I'm just checking this. Here we
Hello,
go.
everyone. Good morning.
I mean, all kinds of weird stuff going on. There we go. That seems to be better. Hopefully the audio is better now. Yesterday I was like OCD stirring my coffee and they could hear everything and I had no idea if they could hear it.
Thank you for saying that. I'll move my mic because I have a glass of water there.
I was like, oops. They're like, what is that sound?
Mm.
That's just me and my OCD stirring my coffee.
Can we see Buddha back there? Make sure we get Buddha. Hi, Buddha.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Hmm.
So good to see you all. Good morning. Matthew says 90 degrees sounds fun. Yeah, it's really freezing right now. It was so cold, my little guy didn't want to get out to the bus fast enough, and we missed the bus this morning, so we had to go out and drive him to school as well. It's one of those mornings today.
I love a good snow day. Those were magic days growing up.
Oh, yes.
Hmm.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. How's it going? I didn't even make my coffee yet, so I'm prepping my coffee. So nice to see you, Michael.
Really lovely to be with you. I've been excited about this for a few weeks, but definitely today and this week. I was like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Where are we going to go?
We've got a whole lot of new followers. So there's going to be a whole bunch of people who have never seen you before. I'm excited to introduce you to them. And honestly, I think that there's a lot of people waking up right now. My guides have told me, they said spiritual awakenings are happening all over the place. Everybody's starting to kind of wake up in some degree. You've been seeing that too?
I'm watching it in real time because I live right now in Kopangan, Thailand, which is considered Tantra Island. It's people are coming for lots of different spiritual healing, detoxes, yoga. So people are coming here that are in their process. And some are just coming they didn't know they were coming here because they're in their process. But I'm watching some people, like there's this approaching of the gate of really waking up, that people are like working through their morals, they're aligning themselves. Maybe they're not, in a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
But then they come around other folks that are going through the process, and maybe you might be a little bit further down the road or a little bit more informed. And I'm watching people light up in like beautiful ways, like when they hear the word starseed for the first time.
I love that.
I'm also noticing healings happening very deeply and very quickly. A lot of like Kundalini activation things are happening, like spontaneous Kundalini activation.
Spontaneous Kundalini activation is one of the most terrifying things that ever happened to me.
Yeah, if you don't know, it's like, what the hell?
I had no clue, zero clue. In fact, it's a funny story I told once before, where I basically got really cocky and I was learning about Moldavite at the time. And Moldavite back 13 years ago was a lot cheaper than it is now. So I went and I bought as much Moldavite as I could get my hands on. And I made a crystal grid out of Moldavite, Herkimer diamonds, and selenite. And I felt like my spine was melting.
Yeah.
It felt like my spine was melting and fusing into my back. And
somebody was asking what that feels like. Do you want to share what yours is, and I can share some things too?
Well, like I said, they're not all the same. Some people have them a lot more intense. Mine, because I had no clue what was happening, I started freaking out. I ran and jumped in the shower with my clothes on.
Okay. Absolutely. I can share just generally, and then I'll share a little bit about mine. But when the Kundalini, when the spiritual potential, this force that sits at the base of the spine, when someone starts to go through true spiritual awakening, not just following religion, but really starts to awaken to their inner world, there's this process where this force begins to move and begins to rise up through the spine. And it's electromagnetic. It is ecstatic. It is blissful. It is charged and very powerful. And so people can go into convulsions, can go into shaking, they can go into like very powerful visionary states. They can start speaking in what some might call light language or tongues. The body may start to move into mudras or different placements, because this is an intelligent force. The universe is also operated by a cosmic Kundalini. So when your personal Kundalini begins to rise and begins to interact with this cosmic force, you're literally tapping into the evolutionary force of creation through bliss, through creative, intuitional exploration. So the body will start to move as it taps into this this force. There are dangers with it. There are people that try to work with it or try to move it too early, and it's best done when the body has a slow time to integrate, because as Kundalini begins to rise and as more comes in, it starts to purify each of the layers, going deeper and deeper and deeper. So physical purging, physical detoxification starts to happen. And then it goes into the emotional, and it starts to go deeper and deeper. But it's a long process. It's a marathon, not a race with Kundalini. You want to slow and steady with it. But it's a very powerful
part that got me. I was not expecting it. If
Yeah.
I had been better prepared and trained and expecting it, I think I could have harnessed it properly. But because I wasn't prepared and had no idea what was happening to me, it created panic. And
Yes,
I felt like a huge block was in my throat, because I felt it rising up my spine. And then when it got to my throat, I felt like I swallowed a rock. That's what I remember. And as I went to cough, I felt this huge release, and I felt a pop out of my third eye. It was like a pop. That was the only way I could explain it. And that's when I got up and ran. I was like, holy shit, what's happening to me? My spine felt so hot. And you have so much energy rising up through you, especially up through your crown and then up through your root, and your whole body just kind of, for me, I felt more in alignment after that. But at the same time, I was also so shocked that I didn't know what had happened to me. And it took me a while to even comprehend what my body had gone through.
Yeah, it's really, and people can end up going to different professionals that may not be informed on what that is, and they may give protocols and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's really important, as you're going through your awakening process, to find someone who knows more than you, and spend a lot of time with somebody that could be in a teacher or role model kind of space, because they can help you bypass a lot of issues and help you feel much more calm in your process. If anyone's interested, I mean, there's a lot of texts out there that you can find. I would be very discerning with information taking in about Kundalini and Kundalini activation, because it's a trendy buzzword right now. And
it is.
So I always like to stick to the old traditions, the Vedic old systems that have been tracking these kind of thing for a long time.
Yes. So for people that are going through an awakening right now, I think Kundalini is something that people kind of discover further down the road. Most of the time when people are going through their awakening, it happens through some kind of a tragedy, like the loss of a loved one. Sometimes it happens through some kind of a big shakeup in your life, like a divorce, or some kind of like losing your job, or going through some kind of a healing crisis. And so many people are kind of already shell-shocked to a degree when they start to have their spiritual awakening. And it can start to be more, shocking for people. So how do you kind of like ease them into it? If you remember, Dolores used to say, you can't give a baby a 5-course meal. You have to kind of spoon feed them a little bit here and there. So what is your first things that you kind of,
What a great question. I feel that the yoga systems have a very mapped out progression of how to easily move through the progression of realization. And they're starting first with your relationships. You end up try to be less selfish, less greedy, less, do no harm within your relations. If there's issues there, we might focus on that, what's driving that emotionally, and then also focusing on the physical body, getting it detoxified, getting it stretched, strengthened, massaged, getting a physical practice. meditation is very important throughout the whole process of awakening. It
Yeah.
may come and go like the style that one does, but to start to anchor in that witnessing consciousness, so that as the big emotions are coming up, the big purgings, maybe an illness surfaces, because this is at the root. So all the root chakra stuff, physical body is going to start first. So a crisis, a loss of some kind,
Accidents reroute us too, right?
Totally. A big fear thing will just jolt that root chakra. And so as the Kundalini comes up, it's going to work in that chakra first. So all your issues are likely, a majority of them are going to be related to root chakra. And
that's
then
where your fight or flight is all centered too. That's like when people are in like survival mode, these 3 chakras I've noticed are way dialed back, and the bottom ones, the lower 3, are the most active. They're like overactive.
It makes sense. I mean, those are the like ones that we're operating out of before we start to wake up unconsciously. So all the fear, all of the insecurity, all of the power over or powerless kind of thing in those 3 chakras. And that's why it's very important, if you want to work with Kundalini, it's very exciting. Work with purifying those lower centers first, because psychic senses are going to come online, occult powers are going to come online, and it's very important that you have someone to guide you through that, so that because you can cause a lot of issues if you're using those powers from a selfish place, because the lower centers aren't. So coming into the heart, coming into meditative awareness, and you'll be led, you'll be guided through that. Through synchronicities, people that you meet.
Your soul guides are really trying to keep you on track. They choose kind of like the best timing to drop you little breadcrumbs, so to speak, to help you stay on your path.
I love that you just said that, because that's the other part that I notice now is people that are just starting to turn on, is the acknowledgement of the higher world and communication with it. Some people can call it God, some people call it the universe, or some people want to find that divinity within themselves, or a combination of any of those. So I try to use my languaging to understand like what's the framework that they're working with right now, so that I can guide their process, so they can strengthen whatever connection they're already operating from, and then start to sprinkle the other stuff in. I think slow and steady at the beginning, not to overload. I know at the beginning stages of really starting to wake up to that stuff, I had totally had that Messiah complex thing come in, super excited to tell everyone about the all the cool things, new earth is coming, da, da, da. Some people don't need all that right away.
Some people are literally protected against wakening up. My sister is one of them. I tried to waken my sister, and my sister thinks I'm a complete nutball. And I was like, well, maybe I could kind of like talk to her higher self or find out something. So I did a clearing one day, and I asked her guides. I was like, what's the deal? Like, am I just not trying hard enough? And they said, no, you're actually trying too hard, because we're not going to let you wake her up. And I was like, why? And they said, it'd be too much of a distraction. She's got stuff that she's going through in life. Yeah. She's not here to spiritually awaken in this life. She's here to balance karma, learn lessons as a human, and really start to self-love. Self-love, in many cases, doesn't require a spiritual awakening.
Absolutely. And some of those people serve as catalysts for us, so that we can see why we need it so much, why we think something wrong is happening, or the impatience that we might be projecting onto them. I know I did that with a million people. What I think now, my approach is to throw a little morsel and take a step back and see what they're going to do with it. Just a little, see what happens there. I think also very simply empowering the individual to let them know that they have a choice, that they can choose a different path. They can choose what they want. They can follow their inner wisdom, intuition, whatever they use. But I think at first, just like, because the journey is long and it's treacherous, there's all kinds of things coming. So if we can just give them that little bit of empowerment as a base, that's enough. Giving the big metaphysical stuff can actually keep people in resistance, because it just sounds too off base from where they currently are. You
can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink.
Yeah.
You can literally try your best to educate people, but some people are, as one of my favorite quotes by one of the Take-Attons, I said, some people are just here to wear beer hats and go to football games. They're here for the human experience too,
And There's a saying in some of the non-dual Vedic lineage. It's kind of like the pinnacle of the Hindu tradition. And one of the things that I heard a monk teaching on was that even just to be in the room, hearing some of the things, some of the wisdom, some of the non-dual stuff, just means that you're approaching the end of your incarnational cycle. But you may have many more left to go, but you're just getting the first seeds in the soil. They may not open up in this life, but it's in the consciousness.
Lifetimes to have a spiritual awakening. People don't understand that. You don't just go from being completely unawakened to jumping, both feet into the deep end in regards to spirituality. You're relearning in most cases. You're remembering things that you've already learned in other lifetimes. Because learning is hard. Learning something new as a human can take several lifetimes. But if something comes easy to you, that's not something that you're learning for the first time. That is something that you're remembering and recalling. Exactly. A lot of starseeds have that, where they don't even know where the information's coming from. They have this claircognizance that's helping them to just know things.
Somebody was asking here what, they're having a challenge meditating, and I completely understand that. Any advice that I would give is to keep trying. Do it for a minute. Do it for 5 minutes. The breath is the vehicle.
Yes.
At first, to quiet the mind, because the mind is running and the body's there. So as you use the awareness of the breathing, you're linking the mind and the body so that it can focus, so that it can have something to begin that the union, yoga. So I would focus first on breath awareness with a count in it. Counting up to 4 or 5, counting down to 4 or 5, however you want to do that, because the mental counting, you can do it out loud, but that'll interrupt the breathing. Go into the mind and think as you're breathing in 1, 2, 3, and just keep doing that over and over. If you forget where your number is, just start again. It's okay. We all have monkey minds. That would be the first step I would take. Yeah. The mind is going to be rampant at the beginning. It's going to be all over.
No, I've been struggling with I don't know. They diagnosed it as ADD. You can call it whatever you want, but I have I am like, zoom, zoom, zoom all the time. Like, like shiny thing squirrel. Like I'm like totally distracted all the time. So meditation for me did not work at first at all. It was irritating to try and clear my mind and to stop moving about. So what I've noticed, and too, what really helped me, Lauren Roche is one of the people who's come on the podcast a few times. He's a meditation teacher for the last 50 years. And Lauren explained that, if you're trying to sit there with an empty head, you're not actually doing it properly. He said, you see things. It's like watching a movie in your head if you are able to kind of like tune in to different aspects. So for me, I didn't understand that until recently when my mediumship started getting stronger, because it was almost like an echo chamber, like it was just, it wasn't, there's nothing for me there. And even just clearing out my mind was nearly impossible. I would do listening to the wind. I would listen to birds. I would focus on my breathing, like you said. I would try and listen for my heartbeat. Things like that to try and clear my mind, because my guides have told me my brain is like Grand Central Station. They're like, your trains are coming all the time and we can't get a word in. So they've been telling me I do need to meditate more and to clear my mind. And for somebody like me, it was nearly impossible in the beginning. It has gotten easier with practice, but I think doing guided meditations helped. Doing the grounding definitely helps, because if you try and meditate before grounding, it's not going to work. You have to be well grounded to have a good meditation session. And there's a lot more distractions. People are easily distracted. If you spend too much time on your phone, if you're addicted to your phone, it's also hard to meditate, because the first thing you want to do is go and grab your phone.
Totally.
So there's a lot. You have to be patient with yourself.
I kind of started pointing to this earlier. If anyone's ever taken Ashtanga yoga, the 8 limbs. So there's 8 stages that you get to. Each of those stages is the progression of steps to take before you get actually into that non-dual meditative state. So you start first with being ethical and being good in your relations and taking care of yourself. Then you go in physical posture. So getting the body moving, that's a huge one for people. We have so much stimulation going through the body. We have the nervous system needs to be totally rewired through the spiritual process. So getting your physical activity in, getting your cardio up, and then you can start going into breath awareness.
Yes.
And only from there do you start to withdraw your senses more and more. Then you can start to focus. Then meditation starts. All of that is preparation to get to it. So even in that system, it's showing it's going to be a bumpy ride at first. First, start on the most external, start to work more and more subtly. Bing! And be gentle with yourself. It's a marathon. It's not a race.
It is. And I think that also what we do throughout the day kind of sets the tone for how our mind is going to be. So you have to kind of find the best time of day for your mindset for that. Because in the morning, for example, if you're like, go, 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 I got a lot to do, it's very hard to kind of, ground yourself and have a few minutes in the morning. But so it's best to really just find the time of day. For me, it's in the evening. Because people have less demands of me and it's quiet and nobody's calling my phone. My phone's not blinging all the time. So in the evening before bed is the best time for me. But I've also noticed that if you don't make time and you just kind of aren't consistent with it, then you struggle. So building that consistency and even just trying to set 10 minutes a day at the most opportune time of the day does help a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm the same. My mind is very sluggish when I wake up. It's very heavy. So maybe more of getting my body just moving, that's enough. Because I couldn't meditate. If I sat up to do meditation at that time just without any movement, it would just be dull and sluggish. So I'd have to do like breath work, something to burn through it, get it charged up and clear. And I don't feel like doing that at this point in my life. So I don't do it. Yeah. My practice right now is being really sweet to myself and really gentle and just being very simple.
That's one of the most important things to do, especially upon your awakening, because one of the things that I've realized upon my own awakening and upon watching other people awaken is they start to realize that they have not been taking good care of themselves.
Yeah.
You realize that through your dark night of the soul, you realize that through your relationships that are kind of suffering. And a lot of this happens because you're trying to kind of like prioritize the things in your life that are good and start to release some of the stuff that isn't serving you to your highest good. And that can be quite a challenge. And that's why a lot of people do tend to have a bit of a shake up in their lives when a spiritual awakening happens because of all the things that are being released that no longer serve us.
Absolutely. I think there's so much conditioning and there's so many mistruths and distortions that we have to make our way through. And as we do that, as we stop giving action to them, that's why I was bringing up the ethical thing. We stop lying, maybe we stop stealing things, or we stop doing things that cause us to be even more insecure about ourselves or beat up on ourselves. It's hard to meditate if you're having bad relationships, if you're not showing up in your in your deepest truth. And so it takes time.
Or if you've been in fight or flight mode for a long time, if you've really been struggling to try and calm your nerves and be able to center your energy, it's not easy when you've been frazzled for so long.
Yeah. So be gentle. It takes this time.
I think, a lot of people are actually struggling with meditation from what I'm seeing from the comments.
Yeah.
And I think most of us, in a way, don't even really understand what meditation is. That meditation isn't always just sitting in a yoga posture and trying to clear your mind. You can meditate while you're driving. You can meditate while you're gardening or doing the dishes. It's really about just coming back to yourself.
Yeah, I like the word mindfulness works good. I think the word for me, I have a more like specific definition of meditation. I think culturally now we use the word meditation to mean a lot of mindful practices, things that are helping to bring some new quality to the mind or some connection to the body and the mind together, like yoga or dance, or it can be meditative. They'll use that word. For me, the word meditation is being able to maintain the mind on a single point. So the practice at first is going into the single point, like the breath, but then the mind wanders. So you bring it back. Mind wanders, bring it back. And it's a lot of that. Once you're able to maintain that one point, then you can open up to the absorption, to the samadhi. You can have that, I am the infinite consciousness. I am infinite awareness. So as you're focusing on the breath, you can have that mental mantra, I am infinite awareness. And that can trigger the expansion. Sometimes I like guided, I make a career off of guided journeys with the hypnosis work that I do. I think it's very powerful when used in a certain way, but sometimes it can actually be training the mind to continue bouncing from sensory experience to sensory experience to sensory experience, following, oh, that feels nice. Oh, that feels good. Oh, so it ends up, it can make the mind feel a little brighter, but it's not necessarily helping you. Let's say when your trigger comes up, when the eruption of the programming comes up, that's when you need the breath, focus, and knowing what you truly are. Otherwise, you're right into the spiral again.
It's funny you say that, because I got triggered mildly this morning, and it was over a lie too. My kid told me that he had breakfast, and he didn't. He lied to me, and I was like, "If you had breakfast, where's this? Where's that?" I said, "You want breakfast?" He goes, "I already had it," and I was like, "What?" And I looked, and I couldn't find any evidence of this supposed breakfast. And I said, "Well, why didn't you just tell me the truth?" And he goes, "I didn't want breakfast." So why didn't you just tell me that? Why would you lie and tell me that you already had it? And it started this huge argument with him and about lying. And it triggered me a little bit, because my intuition knew. I knew he didn't have breakfast, and he gaslighted me. He goes, "Yes, I did." I was like, "No, my intuition is saying you didn't." And he repeated the lie 3 times. "Yes, I did have breakfast. Yes, I did." And I was like, "Oh yeah, where's the proof? Where's the breakfast?" And that's when he was like,
and then there it is. Like, that sinking right there was why he couldn't say it.
And I got mad. I was like, "You made me gaslight myself. I was believing you because I trusted you more than my own intuition. I believed you for a minute, but then something just said, no, he's not telling the truth." And I had to ask 3 times to get the right answer out of him.
Mama's intuition.
Not a big lie, but I told him, I was like, "If you're gonna lie about breakfast, what else are we gonna get you caught with? Like, that trust is very important." And so
as somebody who has struggled very deeply with codependency most of my life because of many different reasons, I have spent a lot of energy and time reducing myself, shrinking myself, giving half truths, giving a full-on lie. Because I'm working in my throat, and I'm like refining it. I shared something that was like not completely in alignment. It was like a half truth, and I went back and corrected that. I was like, sorry about this. This is the full story. But I really felt like, interesting. What was it that kept me from being honest? And it's usually because I want this person to like me, to love me.
People pleasing. Yes, that's exactly why.
That's been my huge one.
He was just trying to make me happy, so he lied to me. I'm like, that is not going to make me happy. It's going to do the opposite.
Not the way. Yeah.
But no, we do. We try and people please a lot, and we end up lying even to ourselves to people please sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have any people pleasers in here? I have a song that I listen to called Former People Pleaser. It's like a really bassy song. Makes me get groovy in my house.
But even in children, you have to start nipping that in the bud, because people pleasing starts at a very early age. Children do all the time. They tell parents what they want to hear. Not always. Sometimes they're more honest, but it depends.
I'm like a 5 signs and 5 placements in Scorpio kind of. I lied a lot. I told all kinds of lies. Growing up, I had like multiple masks that I was wearing at different times. Scorpios, we can be quite a deceptive little creature.
Well, Scorpios, the thing is, they're very strong, and strong people have a bit more of an adaptability. Like, you can adapt to certain situations, and
adapt or die. I can do them both.
Exactly. So sometimes society does kind of have this dog eat dog kind of vibe, and you do have to kind of adapt to that. So it's a kind of survival mechanism that a lot of us learned, especially in our teens. Teenagers feel like they can't be honest a lot of the time because they're trying to, they're dealing with two worlds at the same time. They're trying, you know what I mean? Like there's the teenage child aspects, and then there's the adulthood, and they're trying to kind of navigate all of that. And it's a very difficult time. So for teenagers especially, I do feel like there's going to be a lot of challenges, especially if they're starting to have a spiritual awakening in their teenage years. Because some of us were
things and bling and bling and bling.
I was very fortunate to have my spiritual awakening more in my 20s when I was better able to handle it. I had signs, I had gifts even in my teens, but they were too much to handle. Being a teenager and then also being an awakened teenager with gifts, it was too much. So the gifts were like, all right, we'll wait. You just deal with being a teenager and we'll come back later when you can handle us better. But I have some people that are my clients that are going through a spiritual awakening at age 10 because their gifts are coming online.
Mm-hmm. Which
and
brings
that
up
can create a lot of stress for children.
I think there's something on my website. I think I put it up called Golden Youth System. I think there's like a free little like PDF, like 5-page PDF that's discussing the new children and ways to care for them and to help steward them. It also has like a little family ritual to do together with the kids, to like make an altar and something that's going to be like an anchor for the family.
Yeah.
I think when children are going through, like, especially, newly born up to like 8 years old, they're learning through watching, through modeling. So having them do the spiritual practices, helping them be a good community member, doing the dishes with you, cooking with you, like being a participant, but also they're learning through watching what the parents are doing or the other adults when they're dealing with stress.
Yes.
So, or how they're taking care of themselves. Do they see them meditating frequently, or do they see them, having positive dialogue with themselves, things like this. So at those really, really early ages, I really empower parents, or whatever you want to call yourself if you're taking care of a young one, to know that they're learning through what you are demonstrating. And then at about 8 years old, you can start to introduce some of this sun salutations, or what was traditionally given in yoga system, and a simple mantra, so they can start to work with it. Because once they start going up through teenage years, the hormones are raging. They've got dynamics at school, especially if they're what am I wanting to say? If they're like remote viewing because they're like superstar seed children or something like this, it's a lot going on. So really in those early stages, you can do some really simple things to get them set up. So maybe I'll send you the link here because that's helpful for parents.
Is this on the Embodied Institute?
Embodied Light Institute. Yeah. What is this? Golden Generation. That's what I called it. I will find the link. The other thing that I want to talk about is let's see, can I put that there?
Yeah.
Is it going to go? Okay, great. I have a few different forms of the hypnosis work that I do. I have one that's a little shorter, one that's working in a much deeper theta state, and then a group thing. The shorter one tends to focus on inner child family of origin issues, when people go back to the core origin that they're feeling in their body. So we're working somatically. If they have something in their heart, we're starting to sense into that and then go to the origin point. And often it's inner child stuff. And I think a lot of this emotional reactivity that we see happening on the internet and all this, it's our inner child inside, with our internalized parental figure also being critical and things like that. And so we see, if we look on, a fight that's happening on the internet or an argument, it's an inner child thing. It's a critical parent thing. It's these parts within ourselves that may have been helpful at a certain point, but they become dysfunctional and dysregulating, and they don't work as we get older and older. So if you're finding yourself being triggered often, or finding yourself going into critical, something like this work quantum recalibration will help you integrate those parts and learn to work with them. Maybe they won't be as loud after we do this kind of work, but you can develop a healthier relationship with those parts instead of rejecting them or trying to repress them, or
because
that
that's
they're
what
actually
led to the triggers in the first place. You were repressing stuff. You bottled it up. And then it's going to come out when you least expect it, or at least want it to. Because if you don't deal with it when you want to, it's going to come out when you are not prepared for it.
Yeah.
It just bottles up like a pressure cooker.
Boom.
Yes.
The whoosh of the, once that happens, once the trigger happens, it actually changes how the brain is working. And so the skills that how to, you know all the information, the skills that you're supposed to be doing in those situations, it's actually extremely challenging physiologically to do your practices when you're in the trigger. So if you're in a trigger,
as a Taurus, I call it the bull in the china shop.
Yeah, take that bull out to pasture, let it play and frolic, and
that's
then
funny because that's what I do to calm down as I go outside. So yes, I set myself out to pasture when I'm having those moments. Because it takes, I have like a fuse like 3 miles long, but if something, really gets me going and I get triggered and I feel that rising, that's the first thing I have to do is go outside. Yep.
Yeah. Go do something self-soothing before
Walk
you try to
away.
meditating at that point can be helpful, but the amplitude of the emotion and the hormones and everything going on, it's better. It could actually be really uncomfortable to meditate when that's happening. So going out and just shake, dance,
shaking, literally shaking it off.
Yeah,
shaking does help. It does. I even have a vibrating pad that I'm on my days when I'm really stressed. It just vibrates it away.
Fun. I like that.
But it does end up exactly. Cynthia just said, the longer the fuse, the bigger the boom. Yes, Cynthia, exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's why they say if you know that you have a fuse that's burning, you have to do something to put it out. You can feel it as it's building up. You can feel the pressure, mounting. And when that happens, that's when you need to set more boundaries. You reaffirm your strong boundaries. You take a step back. You reassess where your energy is going and what is attached, because it can feel overwhelming. Like I've had it the last few weeks. I've had a lot of very distressed clients. And when a distressed client comes to me distressed, it's like that stress can be contagious. They're like, and then that energy can come straight to me. And I have to be like,
absolutely.
It's not easy to do. You have to recognize it first.
Absolutely. I think it's really important, especially with doing the type of work that you're doing and I'm doing. It's like anyone that's holding space for other people, having some protocols in place so that you can have a therapeutic distance from the person that you're working with, whether it's a breath practice. I have my clients and students use a bubble of light and a pillar of light. There's an internal visualization that they're doing while working with a client, so that they can maintain that 0 point space, very neutral. Because what tends to happen also when there's a strong emotional charge that happens, which that's the work we do, we're inviting the charge to show itself. It can be very quick to create an agenda as a practitioner, create an agenda, have a projection of an interpretation of some kind of what we think is going on for them. And so to be able to really help them find their power and their wisdom within that experience, and to be able to hold space for them to self-regulate is really, really important, or else we're swept up into the emotional storm very, very quickly. So I always suggest for people to not only have those types of protocols, but also be proactive with seeing healers yourself, seeing your therapist, also doing your shadow work.
Therapy is so. And if you can't do talk therapy, like let's say you don't feel comfortable with anybody and sharing any of this stuff, then do it yourself. Do it with yourself. Just literally, you can record it on a voice note and you just go out, just go off in your voice note. You can go and write a journal. You can, just watch a movie or put on music that resonates with what you're going through, and then just cry it out.
Yeah. And the other thing is,
dance.
I encourage if anyone here is struggling with something that they feel really ashamed about and really afraid to share, I encourage you to find someone that you can speak to. Spiritual, like friendship, is real. Someone, and that doesn't have to be somebody that's super spiritual, but somebody that wants the best for you, that's able to be with you in it, is really important. I can say from my own life path, I say to my clients at the beginning, feel free to share with me everything that's on your heart, because I've probably done it.
Always
I've
ask.
probably done it.
If you try and like share with somebody who's not in the correct space, that's
Yeah.
the problem. Is a lot of people they wait and they hold on to it until a point where they have to share it, and the person they share it with is not at a good mindset to receive it. And then when we try and share it with them, and we get that like, you know, like, I don't want to hear about it right now, that makes us shut down.
Yeah,
We're like,
absolutely.
well, I guess nobody gives a shit. You know, that's the kind of
Totally.
attitude. And so you really have to time it well with people too. You have to be understanding that
That's freaking
everybody's
sense.
going through their shit right now.
Yeah, I think it's like where I am, and with the sweet people that I've been connecting with, everyone's in process right now. So it can become very easy to an automatic, like unconscious to dump all your stuff and your stories.
Every time she calls me, she emo dumps. Every single
so we need to call
her. I get it. She's got a very stressful job, but every single time I see her calling me, I know she's calling me just to emo dump.
So it's important to say a few things. One is, like a person, let's say I'm going through a storm of my own thing. I might say to the person my friend that's going to potentially hold space for me, I want to share this with my friend. I can say, listen, I'm really going through something. Can we take a few minutes so I can share?
Yes.
And they can say yes or no.
Exactly. That's the best way to say it. I love that.
And then the other, I'm going to say something. It's probably full on projection. I don't need any advice. I don't need you to help me. I just need to get it out. Can you just like witness me while I just spew this stuff out, so they can like ground in and get ready for it? And then on the other end, if it's a friend that's coming and it's like this, you can say, listen, I only have a few minutes. I really care about you. So can we set like a little time limit so that I can listen? And then a sweet friend of mine on here, I think she even joined, gave me some really great reflection the other day, because I can very quickly go into advice, sure, maybe spiritual truth, something, but maybe before the person's ready to move into that part of the process. They haven't yet completely felt the whole system thing that's going on. Yeah. And so also that's why having that meditative awareness, that breath awareness as someone's sharing, and your own trigger, you know, your own impulses are coming up, really just sitting in it with them, get cozy and just regulate through your own breath, because like the chances of the person regulating their system increases when there's another person that's holding a regulated state. Yeah. So if you're just sitting there empty, only with the intention of listening, for the intention of relieving this person's suffering, there's nothing else you have to do. That is already doing so much. And maybe that also goes out to the people that are like, you know, resistant to metaphysical information, resistant to the ascension conversation. Maybe it's just being with them in a loving presence.
I was going to say, some of my muggle friends hate it when I come out with some kind of spiritual advice when they're going through something. Yeah. They're like, I just wanted to tell you about it, okay? I don't need advice. So now I've learned. I'm like, it's Sophie, I believe it was Sophie that said, you know, do you want advice, or are you just trying to vent? And
that's some great people question to be clear on.
People are like, well, why do you need to vent? Well, because they're releasing stuff. They have to get it out. And so it's good. It's really important to release stuff, but you have to make sure you're releasing it in a safe space. Yeah.
This is bringing up another point that I want to talk a little bit about, some of the things that have come up in my hypnosis sessions. I won't get into the details of the stories. They're beautiful. I'll just kind of give the notes, because it does sound like we're moving into a very powerful energetic corridor, moving up to the solstice and equinox, and then moving forward. And what was described was like a very big clearing happening over these next weeks in preparation for 3i Atlas coming into its alignment with the Earth, the close pass by. And then in another session, they were describing this next chapter of being about human-wide, all across the planet, individual trials, internal crumbling happening. of old identity, old relationship structures that we adopted from our family or religion or society or whatever, past traumas, things like that. Everything is going to begin going through a process of dissolving. Yes. And so I imagine we're going to be in many opportunities where somebody's going through it, and it will be very clear. And so I feel like really now we're going to start tending to the fields. All of us that have been working really hard to anchor in, to get
up a long time ago, so we'd be ready for this.
Totally. And what I heard was that those that have been doing the inner work for, like, let's say a decade or so, like really we've been moving up the mountain, that we're going to go through an accelerated transformation and bringing a lot more information and a much higher frequency of energy out to help kind of stabilize the field as all this is going on. And so you might see your viewers or your followers increase a lot, because now we've been like sitting in the green room doing our work, facing our shadow, getting really humble, and like getting really aligned with the higher.
Humble is a very important thing. It really is, Michael. Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that, because if your ego grows exponentially with your growth, you can really end up tripping over your own feet. Yeah,
absolutely. And I feel we're ready for it. I think it's, I feel in myself, like I still have things that I'm working on and transmuting. And however, I've noticed that I'm able to stay stable in that loving, non-dual presence more and more and more. And yeah, I think the times that we're about to stepping into now, it's going to really call for that anchored presence. And so I think the spiritual practices are really important right now to take care of yourself.
And honoring yourself and not letting somebody hold you back. We call them crabs in the bucket, so to speak, on this podcast, because we have a lot of people who are accelerating, as you say, who are really making leaps and bounds in regards to healing themselves and stepping in their power and really learning how to, embrace their abilities and trying to do healing not only for themselves, but for other people, and really just stepping into their power. And then you've got family members or loved ones that they really kind of do pull you back in vibration. They're like, wait, I'm not ready for that. And they say, you can't go on without me. I'm not ready for it, but you can't go on without me. And that mentality, especially in regards to like marriages, because that's like your safe space. This is your partner that you're supposed to be able to do everything with, right?
Not guaranteed.
And it goes back to there was another study. There's like a study somebody was saying where they were like, I forget what they were doing. It's like a social experiment where you go to your husband and you say, I saw a bird today, and seeing how they respond to that. And if they laugh at you and they make fun of you and they're like, who gives a shit? It's just a bird. Then they're diminishing you. They don't care about what how are. And that is one of the first things that's one of the first nails in the coffin, so to speak, in the relationship, to not give a shit about what your partner is passionate or excited about. And if you just don't care. And there's a lot of people who are going through this right now. I've been married twice.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I've been married twice.
You're in the divorce club.
Exactly. And so both of my marriages were karmic relationships. So I was healing past life stuff, and that was really painful in itself. But then you're going to have people, they were crabs in the bucket. They were trying to pull me back. They said, no, you can't go on without me, but I don't want you to grow either. So they were happy in their comfort zone. And because I was trying to leave the comfort zone, they were really just dragging me back with that. And by doing so, by like making fun of me, by diminishing my thoughts, by laughing about my experiences, by making fun of me when I would try to do things like meditate, it's like you really need a support unit around you. And if you have somebody that is doing that, you need to set a strong boundary and tell them to fuck off. You tell them, like, if you don't want to grow up and evolve, that's fine, but don't try and hold me back. There's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah. And the tenderhearted, empathetic souls on this planet are often very susceptible to getting caught up in relational dynamics like that. And if you're listening to this and you're in a situation where you're feeling foggy in your mind, you're feeling confused, you've lost all trust in yourself, you don't know which way is right, which way is left, and you feel like it's really your fault, like you need to do one more thing, or something that you do is going to make it shift and change, I really encourage you to find somebody who can help you get out of that maze, and find your power again, find your voice, find your truth, give back the chains to the world, and step out of that, because it's you'll feel it may be terrifying to make such a leap, and I really encourage you to have faith and make it.
I pushed so many people out of my life. I had to, and they were holding me back, and I didn't realize it, and it was painful. In fact, I even went into my Akashic record with my friend yesterday, because I'm like, can you give me a little context as to what happened in this friendship dynamic and why everything, it was like a grenade got thrown into a friend group. And we were very, very close, very, very close friends for many years. And then all of a sudden it just exploded. And I needed some context in regard to that healing. And this happened 6 years ago. And I still hadn't fully healed it without that context. So I went into the records and I asked, and I found out all 3 of them were karmic. All 3 of them were karmic friendships. And so it literally it needed to have that happen, so that way we could go our separate ways. We weren't meant to be friends into this period. And I asked why, and they said because they are on a completely different life path than you are. And to stay in a friend group that's on a completely different life path would have rerouted your life path. So they had to go. And it sucked, because I loved them very much. I still do. And to see them walk away and over things that I didn't even really want to control. They were just mad that I was leaving South Africa. And there's a whole lot of other stuff. But there's a lot that happens that we don't understand. And without the context, it can be very hard to let it go and heal. So hypnosis does help, because you can get some of the context, Akashic records reading, even meditation. You can just ask your higher self for the answer, and it can tell you.
I want to see something here. It looks like I want to speak about which I know you're going to get super excited about this topic. So I've been a few months ago, I had a really powerful experience where I was taught internally how to work with very powerful demonic forces, and shown how I travel to different planets. This is one of the things that I do. I come to places that are infested with demonic forces and bring the light of remembrance to those forces to help liberate them. I was given protocols of what to use within the hypnosis sessions. And at first, there was a lot of inspiration that came from it. But what started to happen is my hypnosis sessions, and even my Reiki sessions, and even training people with attunements, very powerful, very expressive, very
interesting.
Wow, so powerful, these things. I've had people on my bed for these sessions, and it's thank God I have a big bed that they can thrash around if that's where it gets. And I have to really command the space. There were mantras that were given to me and words that I can say to get it to immediately can be contained, and to start working through the process. I don't know that there's this necessarily this issue when the client is coming to me, but it seems as though most of the sessions that I've had recently, this type of experience has happened. And so what I noticed with those people, those people, I can call them clients, they're people, a pervasive heaviness and darkness that they can't seem to shake, no matter how many Reiki sessions they've had, no matter how much meditation, or a very critical inner dialogue, maybe even resistance to some spiritual practices. There's a bunch of signs, which I know you probably talk about this a lot on your show. But I encourage you, if there are people in here that are having that type of experience, I really recommend working with a facilitator that knows how to work with those forces. Because somebody that isn't, that's more susceptible to fear or is going to go into a duality fighting situation with those types of entities. It's not, maybe they won't even show themselves in a session because the practitioner can't even handle that type of situation. I know they're showing up for me now because I can stand in that remembrance and shift things. But maybe some practitioners that are newer to that type of thing, that have never experienced something like that, it would be very destabilizing for them. I know you're training people, yes? What's your, I forget what your work is.
It's different. I know that there's a few people that do entity release. There's a couple different modalities now, because a lot of people, for the record, for those who don't really understand this, I ran the Dolores Cannon page for 5 years, and it took a long time for me to even come to terms with the fact that our sessions could be compromised by entities. I found this out through people messaging the Dolores Cannon page. We would have clients and hypnotists that would message the page going, we just had a session and some really weird shit just happened. Can you explain why the client would be saying things and be like hissing at people and being like saying some really nasty expletives and just, I mean, I'm not going to repeat what they said. It was bad. A lot of it was like, there's one client, for example, just to give you an example, one client came for healing and a hypnotist reached out to me and they said, do you have any idea why the higher self would say she doesn't need to heal, she needs to die? Said it very nasty like that. She's not going to heal, she needs to die. They're like, why did the higher self say that? I'm like, that was not the higher self. That was definitely an entity or an earthbound attached to the client. And so that took me down a whole new rabbit hole in regards to spirit release work, because just finding out that my hypnosis sessions could have been compromised was a huge red flag. And I kind of panicked. And I was like, what do you mean my sessions could be compromised? So that led me to finding spirit release. And that's what led to me changing my entire career and changing everything that I do. But the work that I do, the soul guides are the ones that come in and do the removal. They're the ones that come in and do the release. So it could be that you have your soul guides that are trained in doing this. And that, I mean, some soul guides are trained to remove entities. Not all of them. If that was the case, then I would be out of a job because everybody would be getting their entities. If everybody's soul guides knew how to remove entities, we wouldn't be in this mess. So there's a lot of soul guides who are learning to do this work. And there's a lot of healers whose guides are being trained to go above and beyond in ways that are needed right now, especially if somebody's coming. The thing is, right, some people have to travel. They save all this money. They go through sometimes even wait 6 months for a session, and then they don't go under. They don't even get hypnotized, and they don't understand why. And so entities can thwart sessions. They can cause all kinds of problems during sessions. There are a couple hypnotists, I don't want to say names or anything, that are doing entity release. And I have found mixed results from this. Because the problem is, entities, some of them are attaching to people and are kind of on a quest to go back to source. Some of them actually do want to go back to source. And even if it's kind of like when you have a bully on the playground that's going around and beating everybody up, but that bully secretly, all they want is to be loved. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, that's what it reminds me of. It's an unloved bully who spent most of their existence being abused or mistreated. So they go around abusing and mistreating other people. So when you come to a bully and you respond in anger and you know, disdain for that person, that's the only language they understand. So they respond in kind. But if you go up to that bully and give him a hug and say, I'm so sorry that you've been suffering and you are loved, that bully freaks out because they're like, holy shit, you just kicked me right in the feels, right? So some entities are like that. Some entities are like, yeah, I really want to, I want that love. And bringing them back to source is a gift. And I completely understand that. And those are the ones that are easy to remove. I wouldn't say easy, but those are easier to remove. Because you're, in a sense, you're convincing them to go to the light. You're talking them into it. They have free will too. They can, if they choose to go to the light, they can. But when you're dealing with something like a reptilian, for example, that is attached to people, that is a whole nother story, because you're not talking about a thought form anymore. You're not talking about a spark of a split of consciousness that was created through another split of consciousness, right? We're dealing with a living, breathing lizard that's in fucking 4D. So that when my guides remove that, they have to literally strip them of their physical vessel, and they send that spark to source. So they die. They literally die when we clear them. So people don't really understand that to that degree, because we are, I even asked last night, I said, so you mean to tell me, like, with psychic attacks, there's like a meditating lizard somewhere that like comes and sends its consciousness to attach to people? And they say, yeah, that is exactly what happens. So I said, when we remove it and we send that consciousness to source, what happens to the physical vessel? And they're like, it just dies. So I'm like, holy shit. Okay, that is a whole new level of spirit release. That's so this is why I say there's different degrees depending on what you're dealing with. So if you're dealing with a demon or the demonic spirit, that's something that is much easier to send to source. But if you're dealing with a reptilian, you can spend all day long talking and telling them that they're going to go to source, and they are just going to sit there and bullshit you the whole time. They're going to tell you, oh yeah, I would love to go to source. That'd be fantastic. Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm going now. Bye. And in the meanwhile, they're just hanging out. They haven't left. They haven't done shit. They just bullshit people. So this is the problem when you're conversing with entities, is you don't know whether or not they're being genuine or if they're just selling you a line.
So the way that I have found the way that I train my practitioners, this is in the level 1, and level 2 is going much, much deeper. I'm going to give a little taste right now. I haven't shared this ever publicly. It's a little bit of the protocol that was given to me. But I think it's important. I muscle tested, and I think it's good to share. So for me, I train the practitioners themselves to be anchored in non-dual presence as a lived experience that they walk through life. From that place, so having this knowing, I am source consciousness, that you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're not any identity you've created, you're that expanding consciousness. Knowing that all of this is source consciousness. First and foremost, the individual, the entity even that I'm working with, is also source consciousness. From this place of remembrance, I can, now that I have some containment protocols, I use a blue flame. Somebody asked if I am Arcturian. I think it's clear that I have some connection there.
Talked about that before, yes.
I'm using the blue flame, the blue light. This is anchoring in truth, divine willpower. So we're containing it already within divine willpower. And then reminding it that beneath all of that suffering, beneath all of that control, I've come to remind you that you are source consciousness. I am source consciousness. All of this is source consciousness. It's time to remember. And so I'm psychically transmitting that mantra into the field to collapse all the distortion, because that's truly all there is. In truth, there's no client even there. It is a holographic experience that I'm going through, learning to stabilize myself in that non-dual awareness. So through the session itself, I'm initiating the client into that non-dual awareness. I'm initiating that reptilian or that demonic force into remembrance. Another thing that you can do is, once you talk to that entity, once it's contained, is you can see, okay, who gave you the directive? Talk to that entity. Who gave you the directive? You can go all the way back to the source point and dissolve the whole contract series that's going down.
Yes, we do that with our work.
I'm working with this one, talking to this, reminding them their source consciousness, and going up to the next level, and then it collapses outward and cascades down through. So I have seen tremendous results with this, and I'm aware that the entity is going to try to say things, tempt me. They're able to read my field. They'll speak to my fears. They try to hit on me. They get like sexual, like it's a really intense experience. And the practitioner has to be really,
yes.
A
lot of them pretend to be succubuses, actually. A lot of people come to me thinking, I got a succubus. And then I find, nope, it's just a big horny lizard.
So it's really important if you're having an experience like this come into your session, you're being initiated, you're being shown where you have forgotten your source essence, and get trapped into the ego thing, maybe your fears, maybe your desires, maybe your agendas for the session, and being shown how to come back into that center and be a commander of the field. This is what I teach in the hypnosis training for the practitioners. We are field stabilizers. We are field commanders. We are holding the space, that non-dual quantum space, and being magnetic. The client can then start to attune to it. So we're holding that bridge, that pillar, that connection, and bringing all that's participating in that session into that 0 point space. From there, you can do so many incredible healings.
Interesting.
That's my little spiel.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm never say never about anything these days. I'd have to sit in and have a look at it. But, these things are, the soul guides are saying that healing is progressing at levels that we've never, is unprecedented. And there's certain things, like my guides told me, like right now we go through like a 40-point check system when we're doing our protocol. Like we have like a set list of things we check. And my guides told me, they said, this is only going to be temporary. And I said, what? They said, this whole checklist thing. There'll be a point where we get to where we literally like that and all 40 things are done like that.
Yeah.
That's it. That's how long it takes. Right now, it takes us about 30 minutes at a minimum to do a clearing because we're going through step-by-step protocols. But the guide said even that is just going to be one day you're just going to snap your fingers and everything that we clear will just be gone from the client. Yeah. And I was like, really? We're working our way up to that? Because that sounds amazing. And they said, yeah, we're just training people so well. And the guides, there's more people helping in spirit than ever before. And they said that they will be getting more advanced. In fact, they're already doing so. They're already getting more advanced. So I never say never about anything. I'm still skeptical, though, I must admit, about being able to convince a reptilian to go to source. But this is why I say, when we are going through a spiritual awakening here on Earth, I think most of what we're going through is unprecedented. And I've even asked the guides, what do you think about the future? And they say, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know which version of the future you're going to experience because there's infinite timelines available. So with infinite timelines being available, there's a whole lot of things that can occur that is unexpected. So we have a lot of surprises in store. And so,
and you're bringing up a good nuance that I want to touch on, which is I'm also working with guides that are coming into the space. I'm working with Michael, with Christ. They're also coming into the space, similar to what you're doing. I wouldn't necessarily say that the reptilian is coming into remembrance, but in that point, they are losing the influence. They're losing the influence over the field because the field is becoming stronger in the non-dual space. And then Michael and Christ are able to do the work that they're doing to extract and remove.
That makes more sense then, yes. Because I would imagine you would need assistance from a spirit team of some kind to do that.
I call them in immediately when I start to get the crunched in feeling and like the room starts to kind of change temperature, texture. It's like
that makes me feel better knowing you've got Michael coming in and
of course, look at all this blue. Where do you think it's coming from?
Okay, now it makes more sense.
Look at my name.
Okay, now I understand. Because Michael is the one that takes them to source. Michael does that for us as well. I wouldn't say always. We have other teams as well. But Michael is one of our guides that does take them to source. He does help with our recycling business, so to speak.
Yeah.
But this is also very interesting because a lot of people have, different methods. And I love learning the different methods because we can incorporate each other's methods and make them all stronger and better. So being able to have these discussions is very important and to learn from each other.
Absolutely. And to have different opinions and perspectives on it. It's very important to have so that we can stimulate, which also brings up another thing. Something that there's a few different people that I work with, and I work with different councils. They give me updates on different things. And one of the things that they've been really working on with me over this last year, I'm like literally like giving they would give like a past life scene and then pause the scene and then walk me through step by step how to analyze the scene so that I could practice giving multi-view interpretations of the session information to my clients. And so when, we bring them up and we're talking, we're having the debrief, instead of saying my idea of my interpretation of their experience, instead using inquiry and using questions to help the client start to look at it in multiple angles.
Yeah.
This is helping to keep people from being dogmatic. It also keeps people from being swept up by maybe a future timeline that they saw, thinking that it's the absolute truth that has to happen.
Yes, that's a big
because that's a big distortion that's been happening in the quantum hypnosis
I'm finding
session.
it constantly.
Michael,
one of the biggest problems I'm noticing with my clients is what I've been calling psychic-induced psychic-induced psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say psychic-induced psychosis, I mean people go for a psychic reading. The psychic tells them that something is going to happen in their future or that something about them is fact, and they run with it and they create like this whole persona. They create this whole scenario in their head. Some of them will be like, "Oh, I'm an ancient priestess, blah, blah, blah. I was Cleopatra." You know what I mean? Like they create this whole big persona and theology and identity through what somebody is telling them about themselves. And then we go into their Akashic record and none of it is true. None of it. And we're like, that person just fed you lines of bullshit. And they have to unlearn all of these things that they considered to be true about themselves. And a lot of it was just for ego fluffing. A lot of it was literally just to give them an overinflated ego. Or a lot of it will even diminish them. They'll even say, well, you were a powerful person in a past life. Look at you now. And then you feel less of an importance because you had this like idea that you were this big celebrity or famous person in a past life. And now when you find out it's not true, it creates an identity crisis. So
I completely understand that.
Yes,
this is also why within the way that I facilitate many different type sessions, that this non-dual transmission is a key part of every single session that I do, because yes, you're this person at the physical level, this personality. Yes, you're a soul that's had many, many, many different things that's happened through different incarnations. At the subtlest layer, you are source consciousness. Universes have been birthed, existed, and died within you. Time and space appear within you. Karma appears within you, but not you, the one that you think that you are.
Yeah.
The boundless, vast source consciousness that you are. So I make sure that I attune each person to there's a couple different ways. Some are less direct, some are more subtle, just so that they can come into that, that first time that you had a really good meditation where you kind of expanded outward into that infinite space. Or a time that somebody maybe was out in nature and for whatever reason, they were able to relax enough just to feel like it's all interconnected, or on a psychedelic or something like this. Having that first breakthrough is really, really important. So I make sure that every person that comes to me has that anchor first, because then you can process situations without having to grab onto it, without having to build a story up about it. You can drop into, you don't even have to say source consciousness, you can just say pure awareness. But having that as a tool, that's why meditation is so important throughout the path, to be able to drop all the concepts, all the ideas. As soon as one comes up, it's not that.
Coming back to yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Let me read this text over here. This is lovely. We've covered a lot of ground here, sister.
We have.
Okay. There was those particular like lines of thought were coming from, if anyone's interested in all these random books that I read, Ashtavakra Gita. This man, as an old sage that had like 8 afflictions, he was like crippled, but he's one of like the biggest, like one of the most prolific philosophers from ancient India. Wrote these incredible transmissions. Like he used his afflictions to realize his source self. Also, Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, is like considered like the best writer of esoteric philosophy from all time. There's many, many books that he put out. Even just listening to them, I found some of them on YouTube, just having them play. Some of them I've listened to multiple times. Ashtavakra Gita is very short, but each sentence has so much to unpack. Swami Sarvapriyananda from the Vedanta Institute in New York. This man is so charismatic when he's sharing this information. He's such a high-level scholar. I really recommend, maybe I'll put those names in the chat or something. Having these types of non-dual statements in your music, having them in your mind, having them written around so that you can have something that's going to short circuit the momentum of thought, you know, just to kind of have a flash of, oh, okay. And have that little reset, I think is maybe more beneficial than trying to do an hour seated meditation.
Yeah.
You know, for some instances.
Do you have a way of sharing that title so that way people can look into it?
Yeah, I'm going to put a few things up. Let's see here.
I'll just highlight it in the chat if you drop it.
And then, okay, so Ashtavakra Gita. Adi Shankara.
Sounds like there's just so much knowledge that comes out of India from the Andromedans and so many of the ascended masters that were there. And it's kind of funny how we were going through our dark ages at that time, but they were going through their golden age of you know, consciousness exploration. So much of this knowledge coming back now is for this reason, because we're ready now to receive it. We weren't before.
Yeah, some civilizations on some planets go through an ascending phase while another group is going through a descending phase, and they get to play the bad guy so that we can have fuel to wake up. This was shared. I have some stuff in there with the Orion Wars and things like that, and just how that works within a galaxy of, you know, this civilization's waking up in their consciousness while this one's going back into the materialism and all, you know, all the distortion, and then we switch roles.
Yes.
As it's all moving around, just to kind of keep the system evolving through the contrast.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we are big into the Orion Wars right now. My guides are giving me a shove. Not a nudge. They're shoving me to write about the Orion Wars right now. They're like, you have to do this. And I said, why? And they said, because it's really important right now that all this is coming up to be healed. People are going to feel the truth in the words. They're going to get emotional reading your books, but this is a very emotional, like, healing time. People need to release it because there's a lot of latent trauma. In fact, the guide said every single person in this whole planet has Orion War trauma. Every single one of us. Doesn't matter if you're an earth seed, an angel seed, a veteran, a new star seed, every single one of us, because the wars lasted 1 million years. And to be honest, in my opinion, my humble opinion, they're still going. They're still, you know, they may be mostly here on Earth now, but it's still happening. It's still going. So it hasn't actually even ended technically. So of course, everybody still has Orion War trauma if it's not even over yet. So the collective is trying to release it and heal it right now. And this is why they're saying it's so important. So a lot of these stories are actually true. There's a lot of stories about ancient battles in India, for example, and all kinds of, that's all true, 100%. So there's a lot of it that's being called forward to be released. And so for things like hypnosis and SRT, I think this is a very powerful time to kind of get a cleanse or to get a deeper understanding of who you are and what you're working on. And especially in regards to people who are just kind of now having their spiritual awakening, I highly recommend looking into people like Dolores Cannon to get some kind of a foundation of understanding. So if this is all new and you're really struggling to kind of keep up with what we're talking about, I highly recommend Dolores Cannon and some of those books to really help you kind of, like I said, get a foundation of understanding for all of this. Because some of this we're discussing after, I mean, I don't think my brain would have been able to handle this 15 years ago. Yeah. In fact, I was rejecting it. I was rejecting all of this 15 years ago. I used to block David Icke supporters from my page. Anytime somebody talked about reptilians, that's the only thing I learned about before my awakening was reptilians. And I used to block people for talking about reptilians because I thought they were all nuts. And now here I am talking about them like this. So it's funny that, you know, how much of a difference a decade worth of spiritual awakening can make.
I think Yulia is asking here, how do you not get attached to egregores when encountering wisdom from gurus or gods like Shakti, etc., considering yourself a source consciousness and hopefully maintaining sovereignty.
High vibration. Staying in a high vibration, being able to recognize intrusive thoughts, because they will try and put things in your head. How do you recognize them, Michael?
Well, I think that even just the fact that you're asking that question is showing that you have a level of discernment that is really important to have in that experience. People will have a journey where they're experiencing maybe being in a cult because there's certain things that they need to learn or to go through to learn how to be discerning and to learn their own value and to make choices. So even just asking that question is really showing that you have this inner inquiry process going on. You're working to become more discerning. And I can just share what I do so that people don't project their power onto me as a facilitator or as a teacher, is that I make it a point to put the power back in the student or client's own hands and heart. And I'm very aware not to take anything on to boost my ego or to pull me down. So I think also paying attention to a few things with, okay, now I'm getting more. So when you look at things like, I'll just generalize it, I won't say names. When you look at a spiritual leader of a tradition, the people that are assisting them around, that are helping them do different things, the devotees, the administrative assistants, these are reflections of the samskaras, the impressions, the conditioning of that leader. Yeah. So that leader has brought those people into the space because of their own karmic unfoldment. So watch how, because the leader might be very charismatic, maybe even be reading all this, occult esoteric information and be able to recite it beautifully. But watch how the people are behaving around them. Watch what happens when there's an issue in the organization or in the holy center, whatever you want to call it. See what stories are starting to pop up around it, because those are reflections of what the teacher is holding. There are really beautiful teachers out there that are really holding a pure light, and you can go to them, spend time around them, ask them the questions, and they'll give you information. Also notice if they're putting the power back in your hands and asking you questions as well. Like, what do you think about this? Helping you find your own.
Looking at you as an equal, because we are all equals. Yes. Anybody that puts themselves on a pedestal, that is a red flag. Yep, big time. Because there's a lot of people that are, getting overinflated. Like you said earlier, staying humble. If you are a spiritual leader, you have to look at everybody as an equal. Otherwise, you end up putting yourself on a pedestal as with this. I mean, everybody has a very important lesson in all this. We're all source. Every single one of us is source. Even Archangel Michael is source. He's just, a few levels ahead. So this is why I say, like, nobody has any right to talk down to you. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are in your awakening. Nobody's more important than you are. Everybody is equally important. Everybody is source. You chose to be source. You are source, but you chose to be Michael. I'm source, but I chose to be Lara. We are splits of consciousness from the all. And so people that are kind of like, I don't know, just it frustrates me when I find there's happens a lot where people don't even want to communicate with newbies to that degree. They kind of treat newbies like they like they don't have anything important to add when they always do. You learn from somebody on day one. They could be on the first day of their spiritual awakening, and you could be 20 years into your spiritual awakening. And if you really pay attention, you could still learn something from that person who's on day one. We all have something important to share and to receive and to, we grow together. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think, well, you don't know shit. I've been awakened for 10 years. You don't know nothing. Maybe they do know something you don't, because they have a different perspective. And that's why I don't bash and I don't tell people. I do my best not to tell people that they're full of shit, even if they are, even if they're completely going off, making up stuff and just completely believing in nonsense. If you try and belittle that person and say, well, I'm right and you're wrong, you end up immediately creating a split where nobody's learning anything. You know what I mean?
I do. I feel that, like, I've been teaching. I started teaching dance when I was maybe 16 years old in a family dance studio, and I was teaching children. If you want to learn patience, work with a group of like 25-year-olds for an hour in a contained space by yourself. Um, and and I taught dance, many different styles of dance for a number of years, and I was not integrated at all. And I was completely enacting the patterns that I had learned from my teachers, which dance training, I had Russian ballet teachers at different times that were quite, there was, all kinds of stuff that I picked up. And yeah, I think starting when I started to study some texts from my yoga teacher training about the ethics of being a teacher, about the role and responsibility that comes with it, I really started to do some really deep inventory.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a place that I know if I'm triggered, that's my own shit that I need to look at. If I have an agenda, that's my own shit to look at. And if I feel that I step up, one up with the client, then that's my own thing that I need to work on. So I'm really aware of when I might slip into something like that, and I do my healing work
We
to
all
make sure
slip
that
occasionally. It's the catching
yeah,
yourself and really in doing something about it. That's really defining.
yeah. So I see like some people that are like new to teaching different, it can really be anything. And we all have insecurities and stuff. So I think just if you're a person that's teaching or facilitating and you notice some of those things are coming up for you, I just really encourage having like maybe every few months or so doing like an inventory with yourself, like sitting down, looking at the patterns that came up, and maybe having somebody like a mentor that's been in the field, of that practice for some time that you can rely on so that you can grow, because it's going to be slippery and you're going to make mistakes and you're going to say things you wish you didn't say or not do things you wish you did. And so just be gentle with yourself. And I think really having a mentor around, having somebody that embodies the qualities and the ethics and the whatever it might be that you don't have that you want, spending more time with those types of people is really beneficial, and you can grow really quickly.
Yes, absolutely.
How we doing?
We're doing good. I've really enjoyed this conversation today. Thank you, Michael. It was really
Yeah.
good to see you and to just explore consciousness with you. Every time you come on, we have wonderful conversations.
I agree. It's really enriching, and it gives me, I love being asked my perspective on things. I tend to keep quiet on a lot of this information. I think also, like we've been talking about, it's not so important to share all the time, but it gets exciting when you have someone that you can go back and forth on. A lot of these wisdom traditions, they have these histories of people debating, heated debates, like between the Hindus and the Buddhists, where they would like take their doctrine and have like really, this is how it is, and this is how it is. And they'd go back and forth with their views on why it's a certain way. So I think it's really important, especially in the polarized climate that we're in now, to like put ourselves in spaces where there is some shift, where there is a different perspective on something, so that we can feel our own challenge and possibly grow within the conversation. And yeah, I feel really grateful to be able to discuss these things in this way with you, and with all of you that are putting these lovely comments here.
We are so blessed with our community. They're so open-minded and receptive to things that we talk about. Sometimes it sounds a little bit kooky. And yet they're, like talking about reptilians and all this stuff that we talk about. I sometimes forget how blessed we are when I go out and talk to normal people. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I can't really say all these things out in public. So we
Yeah.
are really blessed that we have this safe space where we can talk about things without having somebody judge us or to really, make us feel less than. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who helps us to create the space, because we recognize how blessed we are. We are so, so lucky to have so many people that are interested in these conversations and that are adding and asking great questions and just helping people who are awakening after, because, you know, the people who are kind of up the ladder a little bit needs to kind of help those who are trying to understand and process all of this. And it is a very big challenge. So every single one of you are helping in that regard. And I just wanted to tell you all that you are very loved. And I'm going to share you a link one more time as well. So for those of you who are interested in a session, because you do remote hypnosis. So there's the link.
The link's up. Yeah, I mean, reach out. I know around Christmas time I've blocked off my schedule, so I have some time leading up until that solstice Christmas time to get on that, and then after the new year I'll have some time. And also the hypnosis training is there. It's available. There's no application process. There's no prerequisites. If you're new to quantum hypnosis, it's a great course to try. If you're already doing one of the, you know, the lineages that are out there, this approach is very different than a Dolores Cannon inspired situation. It's working in a different way. So you're going to get new skills and new approaches and new scripts and things like that that'll take the process that you're already doing into new flexibility and new tools to play with. It's a shorter session. It works in an entirely different way. This way, I've been working in a seated position. They're not lying down, and we're working more in the alpha state. So they're learning how to remote view, how to look back through. Every person is able to do this. And that way, they're also learning how in meditation, that they can go through their own quantum healing process through using their own inner sensory system. So you can have multiple sessions and get increased psychic capacities with each session. It's built into how the session is facilitated. So if you're interested in doing that kind of work, I think you'll really love it. And there's more coming out. It's continuously evolving. It's not like a fixed static method. You will bring your flavors into it. I have a nice structure so that within that structure, you can use your intuition within that. So it's a little yin and yang within the facilitation method itself. So
wonderful. Excited to learn more about it. Thank you, Michael. And
yeah,
like I said, if you guys are interested, aftercare, in regards to spirit release, we do talk about aftercare a lot. And I truly believe that hypnosis is one of the best healing methods that you can use in regards to healing your past and understanding who you are as a person. So I highly recommend getting a session. And it's wonderful to hear that Michael's sessions are now being guarded by Archangel Michael. That gives me even more confidence. Thank you.
Always, yeah, but they always were. Look at this, all this blue. But then the name as well, you know? No, I think at the beginning of I think when I first started to learn Reiki I'd grown up Christian, so I was aware of angels. But it was when I started learning Reiki, and that's when that stuff started to come in. So and Christ always, he's like literally my right-hand man. So calling on those two, you can't go wrong.
I'm going to share you on Facebook as well so people can follow your posts.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. It is a pleasure. I enjoy your posts very much, so now they get to as well.
Yeah, more will be coming out. I've been going through a big integration phase, and I'm just, slow. I'm on a slow trot right now, but I'm trotting.
Wonderful.
Soon it'll be a gallop. Watch out. Here it comes.
Well, we'll definitely have you back on in a little bit, Michael. Thank you so much for this chat. It was really a lot of fun today. I love you guys. Thank you also for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bless you all. Be well.